with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 96. Here with my always brilliant and beautiful co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, how you doing today, man?
Doing excellent, man. Happy to be back, and we're inching towards that episode 100, huh?
We're getting real close now. So what is it? 7, 8, 9? Wow. So 4 episodes, not including today, right? That's crazy.
It'll be a nice landmark for us to hit. So
very
thought
nice.
That was interesting. But happy to be here. Lots to talk about. Big heavyweight fight this weekend, huh?
Big heavyweight fight with Francis Ngannou taking on Stipe Miocic in that rematch. But first, let me start with the opening question for you, Fight Geek. That revolves around the UFC Vegas 22 main event this past weekend. Derek Brunson defeated Kevin Holland via 5-round unanimous decision. And Kevin Holland got a lot of critiques after the fight for not taking the fight seriously. It seemed perhaps that halfway through he may have realized that he felt he didn't have much of a path to victory, so he was just going to have fun. My question for you is a little bit more simple. Simply put, what is Kevin Holland's ceiling? What is the furthest he's going to get in the UFC? He spoke about going down to welterweight, but that seemed wishy-washy. Does he have the day in, day out heart and dedication to get to a title fight?
You know, it's a great question. I think there's been a lot obviously said about that fight. I do think he has, the potential and the heart. What I really think with him is the focus. It's just that the task at hand doesn't seem extremely clear, especially in this fight, because as you were saying, maybe some people thought that he didn't see a path to victory, which I think that's absurd considering one of the few times he kept the fight standing. Actually, 2 different occasions he hurt Brunson. I think it was in the second and maybe again in the fourth.
I think he almost stopped him in the second.
So, to say that he didn't have a path to victory is absurd in my opinion, because when that fight was standing, it was clear that Holland had an advantage. The big problem with me was the focus and the game plan. He kept lunging in with a lead uppercut that was missing by about 2 feet. That was allowing him to get shot on and taken down.
Yeah, he was overcommitting.
He was just doing, things that were, they were just puzzling. I don't think it was a case of him feeling like he couldn't win, because I actually still, after that performance, probably think if they're both on their A game, he's the better fighter.
Oh, really?
But I think that for whatever reason, he wasn't able to, focus in and
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you there. I think Brunson wins that fight. What do you mean? What do I mean? Dude, Brunson took him down at will.
Yeah, well, obviously his takedown defense, and the biggest surprise for me personally was the fact that, I took Kevin Holland as a guy who would be super active off his back, maybe get into some creative scrambles, use his length for some awkward positions, and be able to do some things, but he really showed none of that off his back, which was surprising to me. Based especially off coming off a creative knockout versus Jacare, which was in a sub-mid scrambling kind of grappling
off his
sequence.
Back.
Yeah, so I was expecting a lot more from him there. But to say he didn't think he had a path to victory, I think that's a little puzzling, because he rocked Brunson, I want to say twice.
He had him definitely badly hurt in the second.
Definitely in the second, yes, for sure.
Definitely.
So Brunson had a very workmanlike game plan, stuck to it, thought he did a great job of not playing to the antics and not buying into any of what Kevin Holland was doing. But, Kevin Holland talking to Khabib in between rounds and really making absolutely zero adjustments throughout the fight. He basically just fought the same exact round 5 times.
But do you think, okay, I know, we know all this, Fight Geek, but my question is, do you think that it's a good idea that he goes down to welterweight? Because that's what he said he was going down to welterweight right after the fight.
You think about how rangy and his size advantage he'd have at 170, so you do think it'd be positive there, but based on what he's shown in the wrestling department, that's a tough sell at the top of that division. So unless he obviously, I think there was some rumors of him going to AKA and yada yada, so he knows he has to work on that. I think the most concerning thing is obviously his demeanor, his lack of a game plan, and his lack of focus, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that was an opportunity for him to main event a card in front of, the whole world in March Madness when everyone's watching sports. And, I don't know too many people who are going to come away impressed with that. Here's a little side note. I have my dad over. We're watching fights, and I keep telling him all night, oh, this guy's a fun fighter. He's going to be talking, but he's tricky. He's clever. He's rangy. He's kind of unpredictable. We sat down and watched the fight, and it was a complete stinker. He provided none of that. So,
I get that. I get all that.
Baffling,
but it's Derek Brunson.
To say the least.
We got to put some respect on Brunson's name.
No,
okay?
I appreciate Brunson.
This is a top-tier fighter. Top level.
I 100% will say that I feel like Holland lost that fight more than Brunson won it, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I think that's a little harsh. But my question to
when
you
he
is,
had him, when Holland had him hurt in the second round, it's like he almost let off the gas. Also,
I know. That's my question.
He had an opportunity to stop the fight there.
I don't know. I mean, Brunson seemed to clinch at that point. But my question is he going to be successful at welterweight, or do you want him at middleweight? Are you saying stay at middleweight then?
You know what? I actually like him at middleweight.
I do too, because welterweight is so wrestle heavy at the top.
It's wrestle heavy for sure, and it's so stagnant. I mean, who's going to fight him right away? There's no one in that division that's going to fight him.
He wanted
Wonder
Bilal.
Boy is going to be the only guy willing to fight him?
No, he said Bilal Muhammad.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an okay fight. But, I mean, I really like him at 185. I was of the belief that if he had an impressive win last weekend against Brunson, that he'd be a sneaky title challenger. So I was really kind of taken aback by that performance. I don't think he offered a whole lot in the terms of game plan. And I'm sure he was prepared. He didn't seem prepared for a guy in Brunson who's, pretty robotic on the feet and wanting to wrestle. Seems like a pretty basic game plan to prepare for.
Yeah, so I need to confess something to not just you, Fight Geek, mostly to you, but also to the audience. So I did something sneaky last week. I'm not proud of it. We made our picks for Brunson, Holland. We both picked Holland. And then about 2 days before the fight, me and Fight Geek, for those that don't know, are in a competitive little pick-me league. And it's over the year who's got the best record. And Fight Geek, I changed my pick to Brunson. I have to admit. Maybe that's not allowed.
You would do something like that.
I did. I sneakishly picked my pick to Brunson. I was afraid something like this could happen. I certainly didn't want it to. You're definitely right that Holland almost stopped him in the second. But I thought Brunson's wrestling was just so solid. And I think
100% it was solid. It wasn't spectacular, but
no. But do you think does he deserve Paulo Costa? Because that's who he said he wants next. I say make that fight.
Deserve him? Sure, he deserves him. I don't know why he'd want him, but we'll see. Yeah,
I think I like Paulo in that fight too.
Yeah, that seems like a rough matchup. But again, there's a lot of question marks around Costa until he comes back and kind of reestablishes himself. So sure, I'm down with that. And
absolutely.
Then for Kevin Holland,
absolutely.
Got any ideas at 185?
Ooh, okay. So this is if he's staying at 185.
Okay, so he said he wants to go to 170 and fight Bilal Muhammad. Is that the assumption then?
Yes, it is. But Kevin Holland is nothing if not a very unique figure. I mean, he could change his mind.
See, I'd rather see him in there versus I don't find Bilal Muhammad to be a real unpredictable, fun fighter. He's obviously got a great gas tank and a good pressure fighter, but I think someone like Nico Price versus Kevin Holland would be more fun. Or Kevin Holland versus Mike Perry. Kevin Holland in there talking and confusing and frustrating Mike Perry sounds interesting.
Ooh, that sounds like a strangely tough matchup for Holland because Perry's they're both very durable.
And Perry, if he actually would implement, it's a very solid grappler.
Yeah, true. You're not wrong. Okay, so wait, but I agree with you for the record, real quick, and then we're going to move on. We've got to move on soon. There's a lot of questions about. We've got a lot of great listener questions today, but really quick, I agree with you that I like Holland more at middleweight. If he stays at middleweight, I'd like to see him fight. You know what? What about number 9 Uriah Hall?
Perfect.
Yeah. I just say let's do Holland Hall. But Bilal Muhammad versus Kevin Holland is interesting at welterweight. I think it'll be interesting to see if Holland can definitely make welterweight. I know that he weighed in at 183, so he weighed in light on the scales this weekend, but he's pretty skinny guy, so I don't know.
For sure.
I'm sure.
Or how about Edmund Shabazian if he stays up there?
Yeah, so Edmund just got booked against Jack Hermanson.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, okay, cool. Well,
by the way, rest in peace to Edmund, poor kid.
Yeah, that's a rough back-to-back booking right there, isn't it?
Yeah, Brunson to Hermanson. That is, I don't know if he pissed off Dana or something.
Yeah.
But
tough draw.
Yeah. Anyways, so really quickly, the UFC Vegas 22 recap. Brunson Holland, the card I thought was pretty underwhelming. Were there any big fights you wanted to cover? I think the co-main event is notable. Max Griffin getting that awesome TKO via punches at 2 minutes 20 seconds of round number 1 against Kenan Song.
Yeah, great finish for Max Griffin, a guy who hasn't shown a ton of power in the past, so it was a nice victory for him. Also call out Tai Tuivasa getting back on the in the win column.
He needed that one, huh?
Not quite sure the level of his competition, but he dispatched of him early, so that was a good positive momentum builder for him.
Shout out to Macy Chason. I'm a fan of hers because her training partner is a good friend of mine, Jamie. Shout out, Jamie.
Grant Dawson, last second ground and pound victory was pretty exciting. Brutal finish.
That was awesome. The timing of it was so cool.
It was awesome. And then he called out Clay Guida, which I actually really like. What do you think?
I like that fight. I say make it. Really quick, Adrian Yanez with the KO counter right at 27 seconds of round number 3 against Gustavo Lopez was exciting.
Absolutely. I think, it's been quite overstated, but, he looked phenomenal, super smooth, fast, explosive with the hands. So, one to watch, no doubt.
Do you got someone in mind for Adrian Yanez at bantamweight next?
Let me glance at bantamweight and see what
I'm just throwing things out here. What about number 14 Kyler Phillips or number 15 Chito Vera?
I like both of those.
I think those could be fun.
I think him versus Kyler Phillips is actually fun.
Yeah, that might be the fight. Okay, awesome. So should we move on to our UFC 260 stuff?
Sure. Did you have any thoughts on, Cheyenne Buys and...
You always say sure, and then you're like, sure, we should move on. Okay, so back to this.
Well, then they flip each other off, and there was a big controversy at the end, and she said she'd follow her home, and yada, yada.
Yeah, I just want to make 100% sure that we're getting the fight right. No, I think you're right. It was that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that was very strange. I know that one of them claimed that she was spat on.
Yeah, I believe Buys said that she was spit on at the end of the fight. Anyways, I just thought it was kind of interesting to say the least.
Yeah, the Buys husband and wife team, rough night and a long drive home in silence.
All right. Okay, we're ready to move on then.
All right, time for our UFC 260 preview and picks. I am stoked. Fight Geek, but first and foremost, must acknowledge that the card did take a hit last weekend. Alexander Volkanovski did test positive for COVID-19, so the fight with Brian Ortega is off. Not going to lie, I'm super bummed. But
super buzzkill.
But Miocic and Ngannou 2 is so epic that it's okay.
Yeah, it's more than enough to stand on its own, but it was going to be a special night with that other fight.
I think it's still special, but it took a hit. I won't lie. Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's jump into it. I'll let you go ahead and go first. Who do you got in the main event?
Yeah, so Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou 2 is a fight I've been looking forward to for a while. I don't think it's going to come as any surprise that I am taking Francis Ngannou via first round knockout.
Yeah, it's not a very creative pick, but I actually see that too. I'm taking Francis via first round knockout also. I know that, Stipe fought brilliantly in the first fight and took his best shot. But, I just don't think he's going to steer clear of it the whole time this time. And I just think Francis possesses way too much power that if he touches you, he's turning off anyone. So I'm taking Francis by first round knockout as well.
Absolutely. And by the way, just because there is a ton of pushback, a lot of people that are listening to this right now, Fight Geek, I can tell you, strongly disagree with us, which I respect.
Well, I can
Which I
strongly
respect.
disagree with myself in 10 minutes if I want to pick, the other side of the coin. But,
A lot of people do disagree with us on this one.
I think Stipe could win a decision also, but I think the percentages of Stipe lasting for 25 minutes and missing that bomb for 25 minutes is a little more slim than Francis landing something big and rocking Stipe.
So playing devil's advocate, though, a lot of Stipe fans will say he doesn't need to avoid bombs for 5 rounds. He needs to avoid them for 1 or 2.
Well, that is kind of the unknown at this point. We really don't know how much Francis has improved. We've only seen Francis in short spurts knock people out. So, A, is he able to not get taken down, controlled in the clinch by Stipe? And B, is he still explosive if the fight gets to the 3rd round and beyond? Those are the unknowns that we still have never answered. I would anticipate that he's slightly better in those departments, but I'm just playing the percentages games that he lands a bomb early. And then
right.
Nobody can take that kind of impact. So
and
it's not saying that I don't think Stipe is the better fighter. I just think that the percentages are that he lands that shot in the second time around and sets up a trilogy.
Yeah, and real quick, people keep saying, well, Stipe took those shots the first time, so why is it going to be any different this time? He's just, Francis just a hard hitter. Well, chins don't get better over time. And in between these fights, Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe in the 1st round. And I don't think Daniel hits as hard as Francis.
Right, and I don't know that in the first fight that Stipe was hitting Francis enough to really back him off with his power. I think eventually it was just the cardio and the wrestling difference that really drowned Ngannou. So for that first couple minutes, you look at how Ngannou knocked out Biggie Boy, where he just walked forward and swung his arms wildly until one connected in a sequence of like 9 or 10.
And the first one that connected put him out.
Exactly. So, how does Stipe steer clear of that a second time? He did do it the first time, but I do believe that Francis will come forward like that, hoping he lands immediately. And, for me, it's just hard to believe, Stipe can eat more of those. Like I said, it's a percentages game, and he ate those once, and I don't see it happening again. But that does not mean that Stipe is not capable of winning the fight.
No, absolutely. Of course. Okay, so moving on to the co-main, right? Woodley versus Vicente Luque. Fight Geek, who you got?
Fascinating fight here. Your heartstrings always want to make a case for T Wood, but at this point, on the heels of 15 straight rounds lost and the crisp, powerful, technical striking of Luque, I'm going to take Luque here via 3rd round TKO.
I was scared you'd say that. Well, everyone who's listening, you can't see me right now, but I'm rocking my UFC 209 Tyron Woodley shirt. I'm a diehard Woodley fan, have been since the Strikeforce days. Love Woodley. He doesn't get the respect he deserves. He was the 4-time defending champ. Kamaru Usman only has 3 defenses so far, to put that into context. So I hate that he's getting so disrespected against Vicente Luque. Having said
what
that,
do you mean? How did I disrespect
having said that, I agree
fact.
with Fight Geek before he interrupted me. I agree with him that Vicente Luque is going to win, but I got him via unanimous decision.
Excellent. I just don't see T Wood having the type of volume to keep up with Luque, and I just see him backing up, and eating shots the whole fight. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope I'm wrong more than I love Woodley. Like, if this isn't proof that I don't pick with my heart.
That on the back of all these other losses, I think it really would be time for him to hang it up.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, very interesting to see. Luque is no tough draw for Woodley where he's at in his career. Super interesting fight.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to Thomas Almeida versus Shawn O'Malley.
Love this fight too. This is
it's an interesting fight.
It is an interesting fight. They're similar in some ways in that, Almeida used to be kind of the new school flavor of the month, and now it's Shawn O'Malley. I'm actually going to take Shawn O'Malley here via 2nd round KO.
Really? Via 2nd round KO, huh?
Yeah, I think Almeida has a tendency to get hit. O'Malley, he's been a little controversial. He's usually very accurate and has a lot of variety to his strikes. So I think eventually he'll just land on Almeida. As the fight goes on, Almeida tends to struggle. So, yeah, I'm taking Sean O'Malley via stoppage here. He's got a lot to prove coming off his last loss also.
And I have got O'Malley by split decision in a close one.
Split decision, a close one, huh? Okay.
Yep, we'll see.
Interesting.
We'll see. All right, Jillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick.
Another great matchup. This one was booked for a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or so, right? And it's rebooked now?
I believe so.
I'm taking Jillian Robertson in this one. She has a little more high-end experience, a little more seasoned, and obviously a very strong grappler. So I'm taking Robertson via unanimous decision.
I got Robertson via unanimous decision. This is terrible. All right, we're about to agree on every fight of the main card. Okay, last fight that we previewed. The last fight of the main card. Jamie Malarkey versus Kama Worthy.
Taking Kama Worthy in this one, but last tweet I saw before I hopped on, I think there was some mystery as to if this fight's going to go forward. Had you heard anything about it?
Oh, is that so? I'm on Tapology. That's what I always use, and they're usually pretty good about updating it, but that could be very possible that it's...
By the time we're off this recording, I'm sure we'll know what's going on, but I'm taking Kama Worthy there. How about you?
All right, as am I. I think this is the first episode ever where we've agreed on the whole main card. Yucks. Ugh.
Yeah, that was horrible. Do you got any thoughts on the Alonzo Minifield versus William Knight fight?
Yeah, this is a great one. This is a fascinating one, and I think it's a really important fight for Alonzo Minifield, and I think he's going to get it done via knockout, but William Knight is very dangerous. A big fight for Alonzo Minifield. He needs to win this.
You're going to hate me because I'm taking Alonzo Minifield also. Let's just keep going until we disagree.
Oh, my God. Well, at least I think in 96 episodes, I think it's the first time.
Let's see. What else? Who you got in
Wait, are we doing the whole card? Are we doing the whole card?
No. I just like the Omar Morales fight. I want to call that one out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, versus Shane Young. I like that a lot, and I have to go. It's a tight one. I got to go Omar Morales.
This is my sleeper for fight of the night. I think it could be a firefight.
Really? Who you got?
Oh, I'm taking Omar Morales via split decision.
All right.
I think these guys are going to beat each other up pretty good.
All right, I'm excited. Well, sorry for agreeing, everyone. This is the first episode ever where I think we've agreed with all our picks. But, all right, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we'll be back with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 96, here with my brilliant co-host, The Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, Listener Questions!
All right, we got some good ones tonight.
Yeah, we did. There were a lot of questions. The questions were popping off, so thank you, everyone. Okay, so I can go first. This comes from my man, Juice, at the Friendly Sparring Podcast. Great show.
Hey. He said to do his. His is in the email. He wanted to hear it.
Oh, good stop. Yeah, good call. Okay, all right. Yeah. So moving on to Let Me Live, Bruh. Love her. Guys, give her a follow. She's awesome. Hashtag @SplitPod. Unrelated to the fights this weekend, but are y'all as excited as I am for TJ Dillashaw's return? Do you think Corey Sandhagen is a good matchup for him? Who is taking TJ to win? ? You love this question.
Yes, I'm extremely excited for the return of TJ Dillashaw. Obviously, outspoken. I'm a big fan of his style. Big fan of Corey Sandhagen as well. So I think it's an amazing matchup. And yes, I do actually think TJ matches up pretty well. On the feet, TJ's great with his switch stance and his feints. So he can hang with Corey there. And then we've seen Corey have some problems in the grappling department with Aljamain Sterling. And you know that TJ Dillashaw is very, very formidable in the grappling department as well. So, yes, depending on which TJ we get back from the suspension, I definitely like his chances. And it's hard to pick against Corey Sandhagen because of recent success, but I will take TJ Dillashaw.
I disagree with you. I am taking Corey Sandhagen in this fight. I think that TJ is getting a little older. He's no spring chicken. I know how good he is, but personally, I think it's just a little too much too soon. I mean, talk about no room for error. Corey Sandhagen.
100%, but that's why you love TJ Dillashaw, because he's not, he's not coming back to a fight where he can, get his feet wet or, get back into the groove of things. He's coming back against the hottest guy in the division.
Sure. Oh, no, I absolutely respect it.
And I agree with you. He is getting up there in age, but, if you know anything about TJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Ludwig and how maniacal and competitive TJ Dillashaw is, pound for pound, TJ Dillashaw is as competitive as any person in the UFC, in my opinion. That's one of his greatest strengths. So he will be back with everything in the world to prove. He probably feels like he has to prove that his first title, actually he's a two-time title holder in that division, so proving that those weren't a fluke and that, reestablish himself as the greatest bantamweight of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. To be clear,
great question.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've missed TJ. Yeah, he's like a snake drug cheat, but he's fun. I've missed him.
Yeah, but not only that, but he's a great fighter.
Yeah, he's a great fighter. About
a lot of this current crowd, man, it's just you yearn for some of the old personalities, because these guys, they're just clogging up at the top and nothing's moving. At least TJ Dillashaw wanted to fight and defend his title and
100%
move things around. So
totally agree.
I'm missing the old school champions, honestly.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, next question comes from our man Jalen Ware, Split Pod OG. That's at strive2be_great. Love this dude. He says, would shit hit the fan if Francis beats Stipe, then calls out retired Daniel Cormier over John Jones? Also, who benefits more with the win, Woodley or Almeida? I'm thinking Almeida. #AskSplitPod. Love those two questions, Jalen.
Awesome questions. I'd have to say, first, Woodley benefits most with the win.
Agreed.
Woodley is on his career's death's doorstep. I mean,
yep. Certainly the UFC
Woodley doesn't have a great performance, and there's literally nothing left to sell. He's in the BJ Penn, Anderson Silva territory of his career, and that's not what you want to see at all. So the other part of the question is, I don't think there's any way in hell that DC would ever take a fight with Francis Ngannou at this point. I think he's actually been outspoken to the fact that he would not want that fight. So I don't know how much of a wrench it would be if he were to do that. I think John Jones versus the winner really makes, a ton of sense. I know you're probably not missing John Jones as much as I am, but like I said, we're not getting, Conor's not necessarily the man anymore. The 170-pound division isn't moving a whole bunch. Izzy's up fighting the 205ers. So I'm missing John Jones. I think that he's got to fight soon. So, yeah, I don't think the DC's in the equation at all, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. But Jalen's question led me to another thought, because it is very interesting. What if Francis wins and throws a wrench into something? And so I just thought, what if Francis wins and this I could see him doing, gets on the mic and says, it's only fair that I give Stipe a trilogy fight. John can fight, but he's got to go and beat Curtis Blades or Derek Lewis first. He's got to show that he can win at heavyweight. Stipe deserves this more than him. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Well, I do believe that Francis will give Stipe a trilogy if he beats him.
Dana's on record already saying winner fights John Jones.
Well, Dana is on record for sure.
Yeah.
So
But right.
I think,
what Dana says
think all
doesn't
that,
always, yeah.
Yeah, Dana's on record with a lot of things.
Right.
So
True.
I think that if that happens and they do a trilogy, I think John Jones actually just sits out the whole time they play out their trilogy.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I think
so
you do too.
If Francis wins and gives Stipe the trilogy, then,
Now I know that Dana says a lot of things, but the impression I get from Dana is that's not an option. Is that it's Jones versus the winner of this? But
well, I mean, that would be nice too. I'd love to see Jones in there at heavyweight to finally answer some of those questions, and just to see it.
Yeah. I absolutely. By the way, just to clear it up, yeah, it's true I hate John Jones because I'm a diehard DC fan, everyone. That's true. But that doesn't mean I don't like watching him fight. Guys, I love MMA as much as everyone else. I know how good John Jones is. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So this question comes from our man Eduardo at Landa Crew, a split pod OG. He says, did Dustin make a mistake by not pushing for the lightweight title fight? Did he just blow his only chance of becoming champion? #AskSplitPod.
No, I don't believe he blew his only chance of becoming champion. Personally, I think that he probably still feels like he holds a big edge on Conor in a trilogy fight. Probably feels very comfortable and confident that, he can A, win that fight, and B, beat the winner of Oliveira versus Chandler. So I think that Poirier probably feels like he's playing with house money. I think he feels like the uncrowned champ, and he's not really concerned about losing to anyone that's on the board. Therefore, he's just going to do what makes him the most money at this point.
Absolutely. I think Dustin 100% made the right call. He knows that Conor, now that Conor, is the one who lost, Dustin, it's similar to the McGregor-Diaz 2 negotiations, right? Where Conor lost, so Diaz had more leverage. Dustin wants to get paid. He, as far as, he knows that as far as everyone's concerned, he's the uncrowned champion. I mean, that's just the truth.
100%. If Khabib's retired, Dustin Poirier is 100% the uncrowned lightweight champion. So, and if he beats Conor again, he'll 100% get the winner of Oliveira versus Chandler, correct?
Yes.
I mean, that makes all the sense in the world.
The winner of Conor Poirier 3 gets the title fight, period.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think
and then what would be interesting is if Conor were to win that fight somehow and get a title shot, I could see a Poirier versus McGregor 4 for the belt someday. I mean, that could play out even more.
Oh, interesting. You think that Conor would agree if he's up 2-1?
Well, let's say Conor beats Poirier.
Right.
And then he goes on to fight Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, and he wins.
Beats Charles Oliveira. And Dustin Poirier knocks out Michael Chandler and deserves another shot at the belt. You don't think that Poirier could be the challenger coming to face Conor as the sitting challenger or the sitting champion for the 4th time?
I think he could. I think that, that's getting into some
there's a lot
weeds.
of storylines that could play out based on, the outcome of the Poirier-McGregor 3 fight, for sure.
I do have a quick question because since we last recorded, there has been a lot of news, a lot of announcements, and one of those was UFC 262 has been announced as Chandler versus Oliveira for the lightweight belt. And my question to you, Fight Geek, is the more I think about it, the more puzzled I am that Dana chose to put Michael Chandler in that title fight so quickly, and here's why. The only reason being, the last we saw of Michael Chandler before his Dan Hooker win, I saw him live in Chicago for that super fight with Patricio Pitbull when he got knocked out in the first round to lose his lightweight belt. I think he then had a few more fights. But, anyways, he didn't win the belt back, that's for sure. Now he goes over, if he beats Charles Oliveira and becomes the UFC champ, how does that not make it look like the UFC belt is worse than the Bellator belt?
Because if you pay attention, you understand how good Pitbull is.
You love that phrase, if you pay attention. Okay, wait.
That's because
you pay attention. You pay attention.
That's why they don't understand.
No, that doesn't solve my question, Fight Geek. Okay, let's say Pitbull's that good.
Because the UFC belt is still more valuable, but there is a singular champion in Bellator that obviously superseded that. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it means anything in terms of the division's depth or the quality of the champion. I just think that Patricio Pitbull is one of the best fighters in the world today, one of the very, very best fighters, and he won a super fight. I don't necessarily think that hurts Michael Chandler. It's not like he lost to someone, he didn't lose to Derek Anderson over there in Bellator, or, you know what I mean? He lost to a pound for pound great in his prime, sitting champs. So I don't think that knocks much shine off of Michael Chandler. Obviously, it's a tough loss, but it's a loss to an elite guy. It's like when Poirier got knocked out by Conor McGregor. Yeah, he got knocked out, but it was by Conor McGregor. So you kind of give him a pass there.
Absolutely. Okay, so this next question comes from my buddy Zan Bando. That's at ZanBando99. Love this guy. He says, with a loss on Saturday, does Stipe Miocic hang up the gloves or does he attempt to get his title back? I feel personally that he has nothing left to prove, having already defeated Ngannou once already. What do y'all think? And will the fight go similarly to the last one? #AskSplitPod.
Well, considering we both predicted knockouts, I do not think the fight will go the same as last time. And
I think Stipe will absolutely retire with a loss. Yes.
I absolutely do not, because while you say he has nothing left to prove, if he were to lose...
He doesn't.
Yeah, but if he were to lose and get knocked out by Francis and they're at a 1-1 tie and he'd be risking going out on a knockout loss, then he would have a lot to prove. So the stakes would change if that actually comes to fruition. And if that happens, I would not expect Stipe Miocic, the most proud heavyweight champion we've ever seen, to go out on a knockout loss, 1-1 with a guy. I just don't see that happening.
I mean, he's the heavyweight GOAT. He's kind of solidified that, right?
Right. Well, of course he's solidified that on paper.
So then what's the point?
Because he'd be in the middle of this trilogy fight. He's not going to retire, just like with, how there was a lot of grumblings around the DC trilogy. I think Stipe is a guy who doesn't want those kind of loose ends on his legacy. Something 1-1 is undecided. So let's say they're 1-1 forever and Francis goes on to defend 5 times. Is he automatically the GOAT then? Well,
I mean, we're getting really ahead of ourselves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're saying that Stipe would have nothing to prove. I'm just giving you hypothetical.
I mean, Francis has a long way to go to get anywhere near that.
And other than Stipe, he'll probably never have a competitor to go against for his legacy like a DC, unless it turns into John Jones.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so we do disagree there, though, because for the record, Zan, I do think Stipe will retire on Saturday night with a loss. I do. But we'll see. Okay, so next question. By MMA by Milliken. Love this guy. Split Podcast OG. He says, do you guys think the commission or a state government should be allowed to force fighters who miss weight up to a heavier division? In doing so, prevent promotions from closing divisions like the UFC tried to do with flyweight and now women's featherweight. I'm trying to understand the question. The second part of the question confuses me. And in doing so, prevent promotions from closing divisions like the UFC tried to do with flyweight and women's featherweight. So with UFC's men's flyweight division, that was obviously in danger, but it seems like they're keeping it for now. I don't think that has to do with missing weight. Women's featherweight, there was a rumor going around last week that it was closing because Megan Anderson said on Twitch that it was closing. We then shortly found out about an hour later that was just her being a bitter sore loser.
I think what he's saying, for instance, is let's say like the bantamweight women. If any of them missed weight, a la Aspen Ladd, I believe, has missed weight before, right? She would automatically be forced by the commission to go up to 145, thus populating that division.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. Okay, sorry about that, Milliken. I didn't read that right. Okay, thank you for clearing that up, Fight Geek. Okay, so my question with that, though, here's the problem with that one. It's a good idea in theory, Fight Geek, but so let's say you've got a show in Las Vegas, right? And this happens and they miss weight. How can that be enforced in Abu Dhabi or even another state?
It can't, obviously, with the individual commission. So it would be, for instance, if they were banned from fighting at bantamweight in California, it would only be in California, and it would be, one-off there.
I feel like fighters would just avoid those. I mean, especially now that we're starting to, knock on wood, kind of get out of this pandemic, hopefully, slowly but surely, as people are really getting vaccinated.
With fighters only fighting, 2 to 4 times a year, it's easy to schedule around certain areas.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it would be effective because people would just schedule around it.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a great question, Milliken. Really good question. Really good question there. Okay, then this question. Oh, from our good friend Pat Tobin. That's at Pat_Tobin. Who do you think Jon Jones will be secretly rooting for in this week's main event? Love it. Does he want the easier fight for him or the bigger payday? And who do you think fits those categories out of Stipe and Francis? That's a great question.
Excellent question. I think he'll secretly be rooting for Stipe Miocic, but not necessarily.
100%. You bet your ass he will be.
Not for the obvious reasons. If Stipe beats Francis, he clearly solidifies, he's 2-0 versus Francis. He's the baddest man on the planet. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. You have all these accolades to throw on the other side of Jon Jones. It would be the greatest B-side of Jon Jones' career. Yeah, it would be arguably, it wouldn't even be arguably, it would be the greatest light heavyweight of all time, fighting the greatest heavyweight of all time. So the bigger fight, well, maybe not as exciting, is the Stipe Miocic fight for Jon.
I disagree with you. I strongly disagree with you. Jones and Ngannou would be the bigger fight. I disagree.
I don't believe it would be a bigger fight.
You're saying that from the perspective of a diehard.
You're marketing exclusively the fact that he's a knockout artist.
He's the most exciting knockout artist since Mike Tyson in any sport.
Well, that is true, but he's not nearly as decorated as Stipe Miocic.
No, he's not. That's true. He's not.
If Stipe Miocic beats him 2 times, all that does is make him even bigger and better and his legacy even larger.
Well, of course, but we're not talking about that. Well, of course, if Stipe
that's what the whole point is. Jon Jones is after legacy.
No, the question is which... Okay, so you're saying... But the reason that I'm saying that... here's why I'm saying Jones and Ngannou is the bigger fight. If they make Jones Miocic, there's no doubt...
We know why you say it's a bigger fight, because it's more exciting to think about.
Right, because Jones will beat Stipe, I think, fairly easily. I think that's
what I'm saying
a nice
is
matchup for
Jon. Bill
Jon.
The other side of the B side, and you bill him as the all-time greatest heavyweight champion to ever live, most title defenses, just beat Francis Ngannou twice, has beat DC in a trilogy, who is also, Jon Jones's biggest rival of all time. Then you'd have DC commentating versus his biggest 2 rivals. The talking points in Stipe versus Jon Jones are absolutely endless, and the talking points of Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou are basically that he's the next Mike Tyson.
I just think that if Ngannou wins this weekend, I think he's going to become a superstar. We'll see. Maybe not.
Yeah, we will see for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing one way or another.
Absolutely. I really can't wait for this card, and I've been excited for some time. Okay, next question comes from CSO. That's at _MMA_King. Love this guy. He says, "Are you ready for Stipe to win?" ? I think that's a shot at me.
I think it is. You've been a little outspoken on your Francis pick. So.
The answer is no, I'm not ready for it because it ain't going to happen. Woo! Oh, I'm being a troll now.
It's going to be a historic night if that happens for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. I got one from Yugi.
Yugi MMA, love Yugi. Guys, give him a follow. He's a Jones fan, and I love him, so that should be saying a lot.
He says, now that Khamzat is back, who do you think he should fight next? Still Leon?
I think Neil Magny.
I like that as well. Neil Magny makes a lot of sense, and also Bilal Muhammad makes a lot of sense in that fight.
Well, I mean, let's not do that to poor Bilal yet. I mean, come on. I like Bilal, man. I like Bilal.
Well, the jury's still out on Khamzat. Again, people act like this guy's a 4-time, 5-time defending champion. Has he even fought a ranked fighter at this point? He's coming off of...
Of course not.
We don't even know what his health is like. The guy was basically, on death's bed. He tweets one time, and now everybody's expecting him to come back and fight a top 5 ranked guy. I just think that's a very tall task. I'm not sure any man alive could do that. So we'll have to see there.
Yeah, I definitely think that I was someone who loved the Khamzat versus Leon Edwards matchup. I loved it. Even I'm saying I just think it's time to move on. It didn't work out. We tried to make it work out. It just didn't work out. I say move on from that matchup.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you should, ease, Shamaev back into the fold. I don't know why he has to go from, almost dying and retiring a month ago to fighting a top 5 guy. It makes no sense to me.
Totally agree. Okay, so this question comes from King Richard. That's at V_King Richard_V. In y'all's opinions, who are the 3 best fighters that came from Tough? Whether it be from popularity, success, skill, and who was the biggest disappointment?
I absolutely love this question.
That's a
great
good
question.
One. Biggest disappointment is...
well, I think we can clearly just get 2 out of the way. Michael Bisping and Matt Serra have made a lifetime and a career off of The Ultimate Fighter. They're undisputable.
What about Forrest Griffin?
Actually, that's the 3 right there. Forrest Griffin, Michael Bisping,
and Matt Serra.
Matt Serra are the unequivocal winners of that show. I mean, you have your...
I feel like there's no way to even argue anyone else, really, is there?
No, you cannot argue anyone else other than those 3.
Now,
it's not even close.
I love the question of biggest disappointment because that is fascinating.
I think this is a no-brainer also, and it's got to be Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall was billed as the next Anderson Silva. Chael Sonnen was saying that he was championship quality. He was knocking people out left and right on the show. People were genuinely terrified of Uriah Hall as a prospect. And he lost the finale to Kelvin Gastelum and then has had mixed results up and down throughout his career. But based on what, we all thought when he was on that show, I'd say he's the biggest disappointment.
I was expecting you to say that, and I've got a trump card up my sleeve. Here's what I've got, little secret attack. Nico Montano.
Interesting. I don't even barely count that season, but that's a fair call.
Yeah, Nico Montano. She was also, I believe, she was the 16th seed in the bracket, and she went through the whole thing and, became the flyweight. People probably don't even remember she was the flyweight champ by now.
Yeah, and then she went on to not defend it forever and then got stripped, right?
Yep, and it was a botched weight cut, then it was drug cheating, and it's just, not good.
Yep. So, great question. I think that's
question.
Good call.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a lot of, people really brought the fire. Thank you guys so much. I mean, our episodes really benefit from the great questions, so we really appreciate it.
And the variety tonight's great.
Yeah, they're great. Okay, this from my man, I'm Luke, I think. That's at I'm Luke, I think. This is a great question. He says, if John beats the winner of Stipe and Ngannou, will Phil admit he's the greatest of all time and it's not even a little bit close? And also, if Stipe beats Ngannou and Jones, is he the GOAT? Great question.
If Stipe beats Ngannou and then John Jones, he would have an unbelievable case as,
very strong case.
Top 4 or 5 lock all time.
Yeah. Okay, but so your answer is no then, because he's asking would he be number 1?
It's
complicated.
Yeah, MMA is just an ever-changing landscape, and there's just so hard to weigh against each other.
I'll go further. I'd say he'd be top 3.
Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, if Stipe beats Ngannou and John Jones, yes, he would be in the top 3. That's a safe call.
Yes. As for the...
but he's definitely in the discussion as the GOAT. I mean, there would be a couple small things, his length of his title reign isn't as long as like a Demetrius Johnson or an Anderson Silva or George St. Pierre. So he'd be knocked down there, but then he would gain credit because, heavyweight's such a volatile division. He's basically the equivalent of almost like a 10-time defending champion based on the fact that, that thing was rarely ever defended in the past. So it's a tough one to really break down.
Absolutely. And then let me answer the first part of his question. If John beats the winner of Stipe and Ngannou, will Phil admit he's the greatest of all time? Luke, the answer is yes. I will admit it. That John Jones...
if John Jones beats Stipe and Ngannou...
Or Ngannou. No, Stipe or Ngannou.
Oh, Stipe or... Okay.
Or Ngannou to win the second belt I will have no choice but to say he is the greatest of all time. It's only,
do you
guys,
think that
it's only fair.
if he does that, do you think that 100% solidifies him over the Anderson Silvas and the George St. Pierres of the world?
I think it definitely solidifies him over Anderson Silva. GSP, it's really, 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 really close. But you go by GSP got that second belt against Michael Bisping, and everyone, I love Bisping, but he was a very, he was kind of a weak champ at the time. Let's just call it like it is.
So you're saying you would value Jones's heavyweight championship more than GSP's middleweight championship?
As odd as it sounds, yes, I am saying that.
I think that's the right call. I think winning a belt over Stipe or
Ngannou
is a little more impressive than a one-eyed Bisping, But anyways, right. That was a tough one for Bisping. I don't like saying he wasn't a great champion because I love
Bisping. Guys, I love Bisping. You know what I mean by that.
But definitely beating Stipe or Francis is that is the cherry on top of an unbelievable resume that's incredibly hard. I hear people try to pick apart John Jones's younger resume, and it's unfathomable.
Yeah, guys, again, I dislike John Jones very much, but I am not I'm not an idiot. I mean, come on. Yes, the answer, Luke, yes, I will admit that Jones is the greatest of all time if he beats the winner of Stipe versus Francis, yes.
All right, I got one queued up here from TB Scouting MMA.
What up?
He says, do you think Ryan Hall pulls out again, or will Topuria get his matchup?
Right, I saw that.
Love that question, and you know what? I don't see it happening. I think he pulls out.
Are you being serious?
Dead serious.
If Ryan Hall pulls out of another fight, they have to cut him. They have to.
We'll see. We will see.
If Ryan Hall pulls out after, because all he does is bitch and moan about how no one wants to fight him, and then he just.
Well, clearly nobody wants to fight him if he's having to fight, Topuria.
Oh, cry me a river. He had the Dan Ige fight. Don't forget, he was given Dan Ige. Talk about a big opportunity, and he pulled out.
Very true. So I love the fight, though. I think Ryan Hall versus Topuria is very interesting. Obviously, big striking advantage, it would seem, for Topuria, and then obviously Ryan Hall's an unbelievable.
He's a wizard. He's a wizard.
Submission wizard. So I like the matchmaking. Definitely not the type of opponent Ryan Hall's been calling for.
Yeah, agreed. But let's see what happens. If Ryan Hall pulls out again, though, man, that is bad. That would be really bad.
But what if he wins? Where does he go? Because clearly no one in the top 15 is accepting fights with him.
I don't know. I think he's, I don't actually know the details, Fight Geek, about why he pulled out of the Dan Ige fight. I'm assuming it was something very serious. I hope it would be, because I don't hope anything is serious for anyone. I don't want anything bad to happen to Ryan, of course. But I couldn't believe it when he pulled out. That was such a big opportunity. And I remember thinking at the time, that opportunity is not going to come back, Ryan. It's not coming back around. So that he could be waiting many years to get something like that again.
No doubt.
But we've got, right. Is that it? We've got Juice's question.
Yeah, just make sure we got no more written ones.
Yeah, thank you.
Doesn't look like it.
Great questions.
Thanks everybody for the questions. I'm going to queue up Juices right here with the Friendly Sparring Podcast.
By that I mean, what dream fight?
Sorry.
Gentlemen.
I can't hear a word he's saying.
What are your hopes and dreams? And by that I mean, what dream fight from one of the men's divisions and one of the women's divisions would you like to see? And to make it a split pod twist, you both have to agree. By the way, this is Juice from the Friendly Sparring Podcast. What's up, Phil? What's up, Fight Geek? I should have been at the beginning, but okay, this real life.
Okay, did you catch all that?
Yeah, has Juice transformed into an alcoholic pirate? That was interesting. I was like,
If you want to know what's going on with Juice, check the thread. Thanks for the question there, Juice. He says, what are our hopes and dreams as far as matchups in the male division and the women's divisions?
All right,
what do you got? We have to agree, he says.
Ngannou Jones. Okay, no, Adesanya Jones and Nunez Shevchenko 3.
Nunez Shevchenko 3. Okay, I'll say Cejudo Yan is 1, and trying to think of another.
You'd rather
one.
see Cejudo Yan over Cejudo Figgy?
Yeah, I think so.
Who would you have in Cejudo versus Figueiredo?
I would take Cejudo versus Figueiredo.
Oh, I would take Figueiredo.
And I would take Yan versus Cejudo.
I probably would take Yan also.
Yeah. And then I'll say this. Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor at 155.
Ooh. That'd be fun.
Yes, it would. I feel like we'll get that fight someday.
Oh, man, we've got to see. We need McGregor Holloway, too, don't we?
Yes, 100%. Holloway was like, it feels like he was 17 years old in that fight.
Conor's got to be careful, though, because Max fights similar to Dustin, so...
For sure.
Yeah, that'd be great. Good call. Okay, I'll agree with that. I'll go ahead and agree, because I think that's a
And then in the women's division...
Didn't we say Nunez Shevchenko 3?
No, we want to say something new. Come on. Super fight.
Zhang versus Shevchenko.
Zhang versus Sheng. Yeah, it's a good one, but again, it doesn't really.
What?
Doesn't really do much for me. I don't know why. It just doesn't.
Okay, well, wait, I've got one. I mean, the women's fight that I would like to see the most, if there were no leagues, there were no separate promotions, 100% is Nunez Cyborg 2.
Without a doubt. So, yeah, that one makes a ton of sense. And if we're going, cross-promotional, we could let Amanda Nunes get that win back from Kat Zingano so people can quit talking about it.
And yeah, I like that one. And I'd also if Chandler gets that UFC belt, I feel like you've got to let Pitbull take a shot at it. I mean,
that'd be interesting.
But
they would never do that. You're getting a little pie in the sky over there.
I know. Well, I know. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that does it for tonight, huh?
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Fight Geek, take us away, baby.
All right, as usual, we're available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at The Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_pod. It's 4 words, the Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Peace.